The crash nobody heard. It was almost midnight when the storm rolled over the hills. Thunder growled across the sky like a beast, and heavy rain slammed the old tin roof of Evan Gray's house. Most people in the quiet town of Ashridge were already asleep. But Evan sat by his window listening to the storm and drawing in his sketchbook. Then he heard it. It wasn't thunder. It was deeper, sharper, like something ripping through the air. It ended with a loud boom that shook the ground. Evan jumped up. He looked out across the fields behind his house. Through the sheets of rain, he saw a flash of light in the woods. Then it was gone. His heart started pounding. Was it a plane crash? A meteor? He grabbed his flashlight and ran outside, ignoring the rain soaking his hoodie. The storm was loud, but that sound, that crash, it had come from somewhere close. The muddy trail behind the barn led to the woods. Evan followed it, slipping and stumbling. The wind howled through the trees, and he kept hearing strange clicks and hums. The closer he got, the more the air felt wrong, warmer, heavier, like something was humming just beneath the surface. Then he saw it, half buried in. The earth was a strange metal shape. It looked like part of a spaceship, curved, cracked, and glowing with a soft blue light. Steam rose around it, hissing as rain touched its surface. Strange symbols blinked across the hull. Evan stepped closer. His flashlight flickered and went out. Great, he muttered. But the glow from the wreckage lit the area well enough. Then he heard coughing. His eyes widened. Someone was inside. He climbed up the side of the wreckage and looked into a cracked window. A shape moved within. A figure slumped over what looked like a control panel. He didn't think. He acted. Evan found a jagged opening and squeezed through. The heat hit him first. It was like stepping into a furnace. Sparks flickered from broken panels and smoke filled the air. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out. The figure groaned weakly. Evan reached her. It was a girl, tall, pale-skinned, with long silvery hair and strange markings on her cheeks. A glowing metal circlet hovered just above her head, spinning slowly. Her clothes were torn and singed like armor that had seen battle. She was unconscious, but breathing, and in her hand she clutched a strange object, something like a crystal wrapped in threads of light. As Evan touched her shoulder, the object slipped from her grip and rolled toward him. Before he could react, it flared. A sharp blue light shot out and wrapped around his wrist. He cried out, falling back, as the crystal melted into his skin and left a glowing symbol burned across his arm. The girl stirred. Her eyes opened, bright, violet, and filled with pain. "You," she whispered. Evan blinked. "What?" She reached up, her fingers brushing his chest. "You were in the vision. The one who stands when all others fall?" He swallowed. "Okay, we need to get you out of here. Can you move?" She tried, but her legs gave out. Without thinking, Evan lifted her. She was lighter than she looked, and she clung to him weakly. The moment he stepped out of the wreckage, the sky lit up again, this time with a cold, white spotlight. A drone. Sleek, black, government-issued. It hovered above the trees, scanning the area with a red beam. Evan ducked behind a tree, holding the girl close. More drones followed. 3, then 5. He needed to get her out of there, fast. He sprinted back through the woods, his shoes slipping in the mud. The girl held on, barely conscious. When he reached the barn, he didn't stop. Instead, he ran to the old cellar door behind it. His grandfather had built it as a storm shelter years ago. He opened the heavy door and carried her inside. The place smelled of dust and old wood, but it was dry, safe, hidden. He laid her on an old mattress and grabbed a blanket. She opened her eyes again, her voice barely a whisper. "They'll come," she said. "They're already here." "Who?" "The ones who destroyed my ship, the ones who want what you now carry." Evan looked down at his glowing wrist. "Great," he muttered. "This just keeps getting better." But then she reached for his hand. Her fingers were cold, shaking. "Thank you for saving me," she whispered. "I am Princess Alira of Vereen." Evan stared at her, heart pounding. "Princess? From where?" Before he could ask, her eyes closed again, and she slipped into unconsciousness. He sat back, trying to breathe, trying to think. He'd just rescued an alien princess from a crashed spaceship. Now, she was sleeping in his storm cellar, and something powerful, something dangerous was coming for both of them. Evan looked up at the ceiling, rain still pounding above. "Well," he said quietly, "guess I'm in it now." The artifact's mark rain still fell over Ashridge, but beneath the earth, in the quiet shelter where time seemed frozen, Evan Gray sat beside the sleeping alien girl, Princess Aelira of Vereen. The flickering bulb above cast weak shadows across the cellar walls, and Evan's mind raced like a machine he couldn't turn off. His wrist still pulsed with an unnatural glow, the alien symbol now fully etched into his skin like a brand. No matter how hard he scrubbed it earlier with soap, water, and even a sponge, it didn't fade. It felt alive. He had no answers, just questions, and a strange girl who had whispered his name like it had meaning beyond Earth. Evan had wrapped Aelira in a thick wool blanket, but her breathing remained shallow. She hadn't stirred in hours. Occasionally, she'd mutter in a language he didn't understand, soft, musical sounds that sent chills down his spine. Her body temperature shifted oddly between icy cold and burning hot. Evan tried not to panic, but it felt like she was dying. When the storm faded and the first rays of morning sunlight peeked through the cracks in the barn floor above, Evan heard the distant thrum of helicopters. His pulse quickened. He knew that sound. The military was here, and they weren't here for disaster relief. With Aelira still unconscious, Evan crept upstairs. He peeked out the side window of the barn and saw black SUVs parked along the road near the woods. Men in black gear were sweeping the area with scanning devices. Drones buzzed overhead, sweeping slowly back and forth. They were looking for her. Or maybe, now they were looking for him too. Back in the shelter, Aelira finally stirred. Her violet eyes opened slowly. She looked weaker than before, but her gaze was sharp and full of recognition. She stared directly at the symbol glowing on Evan's wrist. "You touched the heart shard," she whispered hoarsely, voice like wind through glass. "The what?" She reached for his hand. When her fingers brushed his skin, the symbol flared, again, casting light across the dark cellar walls. In that instant, Evan saw something, like a flash of memory that wasn't his. A vast sky filled with twin moons, towering spires of crystal cities. A sea of fire and metal crashing down. He gasped, pulling his hand away. What was that?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she sat up slowly, every movement strained. "The artifact you touched. It's not just a tool. It's a living key. It chose you." Evan swallowed hard. "Chose me for what?" Her eyes darkened. "To finish what I could not. To protect what remains of my people." Evan backed up a step. No, I think you've got the wrong guy. I'm just some 17-year-old who lives on a farm and flunked out of physics." Aelira smiled faintly. "And yet, it called your name." A deep hum rumbled overhead. Evan froze. A red light passed across the cracks in the floorboards. The drones were scanning again. Aelira's expression hardened. "They found the trail," she said. "If they capture us, they'll tear the heart shard from your flesh and leave you a husk. They want its power. They will not let us live." Evan glanced around, panic rising. "Then we need to get out of here." "No," she said quickly. "You must stay hidden. I need time to recover, and you need to learn what you now carry." As she said that, she placed both hands on either side of his face. Before Evan could protest, a wave of light shot from her palms into his mind. He saw her memories again, but longer this time. Her ship spiraling in flames, traitors aboard blasting, through the halls with pulse weapons. Her mother, the Empress, giving her the heart shard and whispering, "Find the one who will stand for us." Aelira fleeing through the stars, hunted, the ship failing, Earth pulling her down like gravity made of destiny. When the vision ended, Evan staggered back, dizzy. "So they killed your family." Your empire? She nodded. All that remains is me, and now you. Silence hung between them for a moment. Then Evan said quietly, You crashed here to find me? No, I crashed to escape, but the heart shard led me to you. Suddenly, a loud thud shook the ground above them. Heavy footsteps, muffled voices. Evan's blood turned to ice. They're in the barn. Elira's hand glowed faintly. I can cloak us for a short time, but only if you trust me. He hesitated, then nodded. She closed her eyes and the room dimmed. The light from the heart shard vanished. All around them, the air shimmered, as if reality had bent inward. Above, the barn door creaked open. Clear this level, a soldier's voice ordered. Boots thudded. The floorboards groaned under their weight. A scanner passed over the cellar hatch, then blinked green. Nothing down here, one of them said. Just an old fallout shelter. Moments later, the footsteps faded. The door slammed shut. The shimmer around them dissolved. Evan exhaled deeply, sweat rolling down his face. He looked at Elira with wide eyes. How long can you keep doing that? She leaned back, exhausted again. Not long, and not again today. Evan sat down beside her and stared at his arm. He wasn't sure if this was fate or some cosmic mistake, but either way, he was in too deep to turn back. Hunted by Earth and stars, the world above no longer felt like home. When Evan Gray used to walk the trails behind his family's farm, he saw only quiet skies, golden fields, and the distant hum of wind turbines. Now, those skies were full of eyes, mechanical, watchful, and hungry. The fields, once comforting in their silence, now seemed to whisper warnings. The birds had stopped singing. The air buzzed with a new kind of tension, one that didn't come from the earth but from beyond it. The drones had returned. They moved in wider sweeps now, scanning heat signatures, tracking footprints, reading electromagnetic traces left behind by Elira's ruined ship. The wreck had been covered in tarps by men in hazmat suits by morning. Evan had watched them from the hills, crouched beneath a fallen tree, his heart thundering in sync with the blades of the black helicopters above. Every route back to town was blocked. Unmarked trucks now guarded the dirt roads like border crossings. Soldiers carried weapons that didn't look like anything Evan had seen before. Sleek, silent, glowing at the core. Whatever agency was involved, it wasn't just the military. These men were responding to something else, to someone more powerful, someone alien. They weren't just looking for a crash. They were looking for her. And now, they were looking for him. Back in the shelter, Elira's condition had worsened. Her silvery skin had lost its shimmer. Veins beneath the surface glowed faintly purple now, as if her blood carried energy that was fading fast. She slept too long and woke too suddenly, gasping, clutching her chest. The bond between them, the artifact called the heart shard, pulsed on Evan's wrist in response to her pain, a throb he could feel in his bones. Evan tried to keep her calm, bringing her water and scavenged food. She refused most of it. I need iridium crystal, she whispered once through cracked lips. A stabilizer. There was a fragment in the drive core, but it would have scattered. He remembered the burst of light during the crash. Pieces of the ship had flown in every direction. One of them had landed near the old mining site just outside Ashridge, an abandoned government dig no one was allowed near. Locals believed it had been closed down after finding something radioactive. But Evan always thought that was just an excuse. Now he was sure the place had held alien remnants even before Elira's arrival. He made the decision quietly. He didn't tell her. He knew she would try to stop him. At sunset, he left. Evan crept through gullies and past rotting fences, taking back roads only hunters used. The journey took 2 hours on foot, and by the time he reached the fence surrounding the old dig site, night had fallen. Moonlight shone on the barbed wire and broken no trespassing signs. From a distance, it looked abandoned, but the hum was there, low and constant like a buried engine that never stopped running. He slipped through a tear in the fence and crouched low, his flashlight covered in red tape. The site had been half flooded in past years, but the crash must have reawakened something. The ground was scorched near the center as if a shard of the ship had slammed into the rocks. Evan followed the trail to a crater, and there it was. A jagged piece of alien alloy, black, smooth, and still glowing faintly. Next to it, a twisted core of violet crystal humming softly. He reached out and touched it. The moment his fingers closed, around the fragment his vision blurred, the world spun. Suddenly he was standing somewhere else, on a different world, beneath stars he didn't know. Elira was there, wearing royal armor, standing atop a tower as fleets clashed in the skies. He could hear her scream, could feel her fear. Then came fire, explosions swallowing her home, a shadow falling over the sun. Evan dropped the crystal. His hand trembled. He stuffed the fragment into his bag and turned to leave, only to freeze at the sound of breathing. Something was behind him. Slowly he turned. A figure stood in the dark, tall, armored, with a visor like burning coal. Not human. Its voice rasped through a voice box made of metal and bone. "The heart shard chose you?" Evan ran. No hesitation, no questions, just instinct. He burst through the fence, tearing his hoodie, stumbling down a hill. Behind him, the thing followed, fast and silent. It didn't walk. It glided. Only one thing slowed it down: Elira's voice. It echoed in his head like a song breaking through static. "Run to me." The heart shard glowed bright blue and flared outward, forming a brief shield of energy behind Evan. The alien thing slammed into it and hissed in pain, stumbling back into the trees. Evan didn't stop running until he reached the shelter again. Mud streaked his face, his hands were cut, his lungs were on fire, but he had the crystal. And now, he had a name for their hunter. When he opened the door, Elira looked up with wide eyes. She saw the mark on his wrist glowing. Then she saw the wound on his shoulder, burned, curved like a claw. Her face turned pale. "Velcran, who is that?" Evan asked breathlessly. She closed her eyes, her voice a whisper. "He was once a guardian of the royal fleet. Now he serves the ones who destroyed my world." Her gaze turned to Evan. "And now, he hunts you." The bond that can't be broken. The wound on Evan's shoulder didn't bleed like a normal cut. It pulsed, faintly glowing around the edges, as if the weapon that touched him had laced its strike with something alive. The burn ran in a slow arc, curved and deliberate, like a symbol meant to mark, not kill. Elira hovered over him, her hands trembling as they glowed faintly with silvery light. Her lips moved in whispers, words from a language he still didn't know but somehow understood deep in his bones. She was healing him, yet she was weakening herself. Evan could see it in her eyes, the way her skin dulled each time she transferred, light from her hands into his wound, the flicker in her breathing, the slight falter in her balance when she leaned back. She was giving more than she had to give. He hated watching her do it. "You didn't have to," he said quietly. "It's just a burn I can—" "No," she interrupted softly, her voice raw but steady. "It's not just a burn. Velcran's weapons carry more than heat. They tag. They infect. If I didn't draw it out, he would know exactly where you are. Every moment, every step." Evan went still. He had thought he was safe once he returned to the shelter. He had thought that the worst was over, but the mark on his shoulder had nearly betrayed them both. "Then what now?" he asked, voice tight. "You can barely stand. I'm marked. That thing knows me. And I'm supposed to be—" "What? A chosen protector? A last hope for a world I've never seen?" Elira met his gaze with a strange calmness, even as the lines beneath her eyes deepened with exhaustion. "You are not just chosen," she said. "You are bonded." Evan frowned. "Bonded?" She nodded slowly. "The heart shard chose you when it touched your skin, but that choice was incomplete. It can only become what it was meant to be when two souls agree to merge, when trust is offered, not just taken. when pain is shared willingly. He stared at her, trying to process what she meant. So, some kind of alien contract? More than that, she whispered. A soul link, the kind only used by royal blood and those they entrust their life to. Evan's breath caught in his chest. She wanted him to form a permanent bond. He looked at her, really looked. At the soft glimmer of her silver hair, at the strength buried behind the fatigue in her eyes, at the foreign but gentle way she moved. Both alien and deeply human. She wasn't asking him out of romance or ceremony. She was asking because without this bond they would both die. What happens if I say yes? He asked, voice low. Elira looked down at her hands. You'll feel everything I feel. I will. Feel what you feel. Our thoughts may cross, our pain will be shared, our memories may bleed together, and if one of us dies, she looked back up, her voice now a whisper. The other may follow. Silence filled the small space like a heavy fog. Somewhere above, thunder rumbled again, distant this time, but ever present, like the universe reminding them that danger still loomed. Evan nodded once. Do it. Elira didn't smile. She only reached out her hand. He took it. The moment their palms touched, the heart shard erupted in a quiet explosion of blue light. Not harsh, not violent, just pure, like sunlight pouring through a cathedral window. The mark on Evan's wrist expanded, crawling up his forearm, then over his chest. Elira gasped. So did he. The bond wasn't just light. It was memory. In the blink of a heartbeat, Evan saw her life. Brief flashes like dreams. Elira as a child, laughing on a balcony under twin suns. Her brother teaching her to wield a staff. Her father placing the royal crest upon her forehead. Her mother's tears as she handed her the heart shard before the palace burned. Then blood, betrayal, darkness. Screaming across the stars as everything she knew vanished behind her in fire. And Elira saw him. Evan as a boy, holding his father's hand at the hospital bed before the machines went silent. The long silences. After, his mother working double shifts. Evan wandering fields with no one but his sketchbook, drawing alien stars before he ever saw one. Dreaming of something he couldn't explain, until she crashed from the sky. When the light faded, both collapsed. Minutes passed before Evan stirred. His heart beat strangely now, steady but different, like it no longer belonged just to him. Elira sat across from him, breathing hard, her eyes wet. It's done, she said. He nodded slowly. I feel you. And you. She reached out, brushing a thumb over the mark on his arm, which now shimmered like a quiet star. But the bond comes at a cost, she said. Now Velcran will feel it too. The moment we cross certain thresholds, he'll know. Then we don't let him find us, Evan said, rising shakily to his feet. We find him first. Elira looked at him, a flicker of something stronger in her gaze. Hope. But that moment was shattered by a tremor beneath their feet. The ground shook once, then again. Elira stood up too fast and staggered. No, she whispered. He's already near. I feel him. Evan reached for his bag, grabbed the iridium fragment. Then we finish this bond properly, he said, voice firmer now. And we fight. Above them, something massive descended through the clouds, its silhouette long, sharp, and full of nightmares. Velcran had come to Earth, and this time he wasn't alone. When stars remember, the sky above Ashridge cracked open like an ancient scar torn fresh. It started with the clouds. They split in silence, not with thunder, but with reverence, like they had been waiting for this moment far longer than the people beneath them had known. A massive obsidian ship pierced the heavens, descending slowly, its hull shaped like a blade designed not for war but for judgment. No flames, no sound, no welcome. Just presence, cold, patient, and absolute. People across the region froze in their tracks. Farmers dropped tools. Children let go of their bikes. Drivers veered off roads, staring upward as something older than history moved above them, like a dark moon come to life. All radios cut to static. All phones turned black. Satellites simply stopped responding. In that silence, the world felt smaller. And under that silence, beneath the dirt and roots and ghosts of forgotten wars, Evan and Elira stood in the storm cellar, breath shallow, hearts syncopated by the bond that now welded them together. Neither needed to speak. They both felt it like the gravity of a planet pressing down. Velcran was here, and worse, he wasn't alone. Elira's eyes were locked upward, though she couldn't see through the layers of wood and soil. Her expression was one of awe and dread. That vessel, it was lost. It should not be here. You recognize it? Evan asked, tightening the strap of his satchel, the iridium crystal secure inside. She nodded slowly. It was once part of the Starward fleet, a relic from the Elder Reign, used only when a royal bloodline was on trial. If it's here, then judgment is already underway. Evan stared at her. You mean for you? Or for us? Elira looked at him, and her silence was answer enough. He stepped away from the wall and gripped the edge of the old cellar table. His fingers curled tightly against the rough wood. He felt raw, not just physically, though his body ached with every move, but in his soul. Since the bond, his mind no longer felt like his own space. His memories came with an echo now, and hers floated behind every thought like a song he couldn't stop humming. But there was no room for doubt. We can't stay here, he said. We need answers. You said the heart shard was a key, but a key to what? Elira turned and reached into the pouch that had stayed close to her since the crash. From within, she pulled a disc the size of her palm, metallic, etched in star runes. It shimmered faintly when she placed it on the cellar floor. As it touched the earth, it unfolded, gears and light forming a rotating star map sphere. Dozens of stars, planets, and glowing trails swirled within it. This galaxy forgets, she said, voice laced with old sorrow. But the stars remember. Evan stepped closer, watching as one planet blinked red. Earth. These paths, Elira continued, pointing to the golden arcs weaving between worlds, are star lines, gateways hidden across ancient systems. Most were sealed long before your people lit their first fire, but one remains active, beneath your soil. You're saying Earth is part of your ancient empire? She nodded. Long ago, your planet was chosen as a sanctuary, neutral, sacred, untouched by war. But as the empires fell, the treaty was lost. Only fragments remained in the relic archives. And Velcran knows this? Worse, he knows the sanctuary gate is here, and if he unlocks it, he gains access to the ember core beneath. A weapon so old, its purpose was erased even from memory. Evan felt the weight of her words settle like dust in his lungs. He had gone from a nobody with a sketchpad to the bonded soul of a royal exile standing between a forgotten superweapon and a being forged in betrayal. Then we don't let him find it first, he said, clenching his fists. We go to it. But it's hidden, Elira said. Buried under layers of encryption. It can only be revealed by those who are bound, those the heart shard accepts. Evan's wrist glowed as if in answer. Without another word, they moved. Evan led them through a storm drain behind the hills, bypassing the blocked roads. They moved through fields and culverts, using old deer paths until they reached the hidden hollow behind the mining ridge. There, beneath stone etched with half-erased glyphs, Elira stopped and raised the star disk to the sky. Light poured into the earth like liquid fire, sinking through the cracks, awakening something deep below. The ground trembled, stone split. A stairway spiraled downward into darkness. As they descended, the walls came alive with history. Holograms, playing in ghostly blue, Elira's ancestors kneeling with human priests exchanging light, warriors shielding Earth from unseen horrors. a treaty signed in blood and starlight. This planet had once stood at the crossroads of galaxies, not weak, but sacred. At the base of the chamber stood a pedestal, smooth, ancient, and quiet. Elira stepped back. "This part," she said, "is yours." Evan approached it. As his fingers touched the surface, the heart shard on his wrist ignited. The pedestal opened, a brilliant energy burst upward, and in it, a name whispered through the walls of the chamber. Starborn. A title. A role. Not alien. Not purely human. Chosen. By both. Evan stepped back, overwhelmed. But Elira's hand steadied him. Now the galaxy would know. The sanctuary was no longer forgotten. It had remembered, and it had chosen its defender. The human who spoke for a fallen empire. The chamber that opened before Evan was not made of stone or metal. It was carved from memory. As he stepped through the glowing arch formed by the pedestal, the world around him dissolved. The air grew thick and still as though sound itself had bowed out in reverence. He blinked, and the walls of the ancient sanctuary melted away, replaced by a vast black expanse dotted with stars that shimmered unnaturally, each one pulsing like the heartbeat of a slumbering god. He wasn't standing on ground anymore. He floated, or something like it, weightless, suspended in a dome of living light. Symbols formed and dissolved around him, curling like smoke before rearranging into patterns he couldn't read but somehow understood. This wasn't just a place. It was an interface of consciousness, a test, not of strength but of truth. Then the voices came, 3 of them, no bodies, no faces, just presences, ancient and impossibly vast. "You are not of the royal line," the first voice said, sharp like the ring of tempered glass. "Yet the heart shard has accepted you," said the second, low and deep, echoing like it came from a dying star. "Do you understand the weight of what you carry, Evan Gray of Earth?" asked the third, calm and sorrowful, like a memory long buried. Evan hesitated, breath shallow. "I don't understand all of it, but I'm not backing away." Silence followed, neither approval nor condemnation. "Then speak, in her place, as her bond. Her voice is yours now." In the far distance, the light shifted, and images formed in the void. Elira as a girl, her family in regal robes, standing atop crystal platforms surrounded by fleets. Then, violence, betrayal, her fall. The heart shard being severed from the royal house flung across the stars like a seed cast into fire. It was all displayed like pages of a story the galaxy had tried to forget. "She bears the blood," one voice whispered. "But blood is not enough," another added. "And so, we test you." Suddenly the lights vanished and Evan stood alone back in a field he recognized, Ash Ridge. Only it wasn't real. He could see himself, 10 years old, standing beside his father's hospital bed. Machines beeped steadily. His father's eyes were closed. Peaceful, too still. "You don't belong there," a voice echoed from somewhere behind him. Evan turned. The field warped. Now he was in the hallway of his high school. Cold laughter followed him. He remembered this moment, when he stood up to a teacher for mocking a friend. He'd been sent home, labeled a troublemaker. People only saw the outburst, not the reason. More flashes, more scenes. His mother crying at the bills. Evan alone in the fields, sketching alien ruins in his notebook before he ever knew they existed. Then came the voice again, but clearer now. "You were always reaching for something greater, weren't you? Something you couldn't name." He clenched his fists. "I just wanted to know there was more, that this life wasn't it, and now you found it." The darkness fell away. He was back in the chamber of light. The voices returned, but this time they were different, quieter, more curious than judging. "You carry loss, you carry courage, but do you carry mercy?" A final vision surged before him. Velcran. The traitor general stood atop a pile of wreckage, looking not like a monster, but like a soldier, wounded, exhausted, and hollow-eyed. In this echo he spoke with Elira's father, his voice heavy. "They will betray you," he said. "They fear your daughter's bond with the Heartshard. They want her erased." But the Emperor had refused him, and Velcran had turned, not because of hate, because of desperation. In that moment, Evan saw it all. A man trying to stop a future he feared. A man who chose betrayal because he believed no one else would act. It didn't excuse the blood he spilled, but it made him human even if he wasn't. Evan took a deep breath and faced the void. If you want someone who'll follow old rules blindly, pick someone else. But if you want someone who understands pain, who knows what it means to lose and still stand up again, then yeah, I'll speak for her. I'll protect what's left. More. Silence. Then the stars aligned. Literally. The swirling star map reappeared, now centered on Earth. But its lines pulsed gold, not red. The Heartshard on Evan's wrist glowed so brightly it nearly blinded him. A voice, not one of the three, but something deeper, rose from the heart of the chamber. "Then rise, Starborn. The fleets will listen. The gates will open. The memory of Vereen shall walk again through you." And with that, the chamber collapsed around him. Evan gasped, stumbling back into his body, into reality. He was on the floor of the sanctuary. Elira knelt beside him, shaking his shoulders. The star disk hovered in the air, glowing in response to his pulse. "You're awake," she whispered, eyes wide. "You spoke for me. You were in the judgment room." He nodded slowly, every part of him vibrating like a tuning fork struck too hard. "They accepted us. They're unlocking the fleet." Elira inhaled sharply. "Then the Starward Guardians will return." But before they could react, the ground quaked violently. A shriek of metal echoed from the skies. They rushed outside. Above them, clouds split again, but not from Velcran's ship this time. 12 ancient warships emerged from stasis around Earth's orbit, golden, living, massive beyond comprehension. Her kingdom, his courage above the Earth, history screamed back to life. 12 starships, older than the memory of any living race, drifted silently into Earth's orbit, waking from their long slumber like gods roused from ancient dreams. They shimmered gold and silver under the dying sunlight, their hulls etched with languages no human had ever read, but which stirred something primal in the minds of those who looked up. Crowds gathered in cities around the world, necks craned, hearts in throats watching the sky, not as if waiting for war, but for judgment. And judgment had indeed come. Velcran's obsidian warship hovered like a blade above the Earth, opposite the Golden Fleet. His voice, deep and cold, still echoed across every radio, every speaker, every screen. "Traitors." He said it not with rage, but with sorrow. He stood upon his bridge, clad in armor, pulsing with violet heat, his expression hidden behind his mask, but his posture heavy with purpose. The war was not one of territory or pride. It was about belief, about who had the right to carry forward the legacy of a dead empire. And in his mind, it wasn't her, not the last royal, not the human she had bonded with. Below, standing atop, the sanctuary ridge with wind clawing at their clothes and dust swirling around them like restless ghosts, Evan and Elira watched the sky with calm defiance. "I never thought I'd end up in a war between stars," Evan muttered, his voice dry with nerves. Elira turned to him, and for the first time since her crash, her eyes carried not pain or fear, but fire. "You are not in it. You are leading it." Evan chuckled bitterly. No pressure. But even as he spoke, the Heartshard on his wrist burned with power. Its veins of light had extended across his shoulder, down his chest, intertwining with his pulse. He no longer felt like a boy with a strange mark. He felt like something new. Not alien, not entirely human either. A bridge, a boundary made flesh. Suddenly, the sky shattered with motion. Velcran's ship moved first, launching dark lances of energy at the Golden Fleet, bursts of shadow meant to pierce armor and memory alike. But the ancient ships responded in kind, forming shields of liquid starlight and returning fire with beams so pure they cut through vacuum like flame through silk. The first real battle over Earth began in silence, but the silence did not last long. Explosions bloomed in orbit. Entire streets below trembled with shockwaves from above. Panic spread through cities. Satellites failed. Tides surged. Earth was being dragged into a war it hadn't asked for, but could no longer ignore. Lyra placed a hand over Evan's chest. "It's time," she whispered. "We call the Light Forge." Evan blinked. "The what?" She stepped back, raised both arms, and began to chant. The sanctuary behind them lit up again. The pedestal they'd unlocked with the heart shard cracked open further, and from within rose a spear. Not a weapon of war, but a command scepter woven of crystal and light. Lyra stepped aside, motioning for Evan to take it. "It only responds to the bonded," she said. He grasped it. The moment his hand closed around it, pain flashed through him, followed by clarity. The entire Golden Fleet turned toward him. Each ship answered, not with words but presence. They saw him now, not as a boy, not even as a human. They saw the Starborn. He raised the spear, and in orbit, the 12 warships shifted formation, forming a protective circle around Earth. Velcran screamed in rage, not through speakers but through the ether. His ship plummeted toward the surface, breaching clouds like a comet of death. He was coming to end it personally, and Evan was ready. Velcran landed in the ruins of the crash site, where this all began. His armor glowed. His claws dripped heat. His mask peeled back, revealing a face both monstrous and mournful, eyes once noble, now hollowed by centuries of hate. "You should not exist," he growled. Evan stepped forward, the heart shard gleaming with every heartbeat. "And yet, here I am." Velcran struck first. A bolt of dark energy shot across the field, but Evan raised the spear, and the bolt shattered against a light shield that flickered into being just in time. The bond had made him faster than he should be, stronger than any human had a right to be. But more than that, it let him see through Velcran. He saw not a monster, but a fallen knight. The fight wasn't just fists and fire. It was words. Each strike revealed something deeper. A flash of memory here, a cry of guilt there. Velcran had not wanted to destroy the Empire. He had wanted to save it. But he had lost his way, and the fire that had once protected the throne had become the fire that consumed it. And Evan would not let that happen again. In a final clash of light and shadow, Evan drove the spear forward, not into Velcran's heart, but into the earth. The energy it released surged upward like a beacon, striking Velcran with the pure truth of the heart shard. Memories flooded back into the broken general. He collapsed to his knees and wept. Lyra approached slowly, regal, even in her silence. Velcran looked up at her. "I thought I was saving us." "You forgot who we were," she said softly. "But he reminded us." Velcran looked at Evan, then at the stars above. And as the fleets above held their fire, as Earth held its breath, he bowed his head and vanished in a shimmer of light. In the days that followed, the Golden Fleet lingered in orbit. World leaders scrambled to respond, unsure whether Earth had been invaded or protected. But the people knew. They had seen. Evan Gray, once just a boy from nowhere, now stood beside the alien princess as her equal. Together they addressed the Idari world. Together, they told the truth. That Earth had always mattered. That humanity had always been more than it believed. That sometimes, the most powerful thing in the galaxy isn't a weapon, it's the courage to protect someone who fell from the stars.